Hello and welcome to this live edition of the Albion Obsessed podcast. We come to you on the back of what was a disappointing defeat at Newcastle, but we're not really going to talk about that. Instead, today, we're going to be talking about what's happened today when Brighton didn't even play, but also tomorrow. But before we get into that, let's see who we've got on the live stream tonight. We welcome Joe. Joe, my friend, how are you feeling?
Really nervous. Really nervous. The title says one win away from Europe. It's facts, but we still have to win the game. But yeah, really nervous, Tom. How are you?
I have been remarkably cool and calm and collected. After the Newcastle defeat, I was very level-headed, like really sort of like, yeah, it's fine, it's okay. But then today, during the Villa game, I was starting to feel the butterflies, and then once the final result came in, which obviously we'll talk about a bit later, that's when I started to feel it. It just hit me. So yeah, I'm starting to feel a bit nervous. So that's me. Curtis, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay today. Yes. Also very nervous. I was the same as you after the Newcastle game. I was like, okay, that just happened. We can't dwell on that for too long now because we're such a quick run of games and things like that. But I'm also, like, as you said, after the games today was when it really hit, because like, yeah, we've got Southampton and people are downplaying the fact that, you know, it's still a big game. They're going to turn up. They're going to want to prove something. Because, you know, I feel like a lot of people downplayed the Everton game and all that as well. And look what happened there. So, but we've got to go tomorrow. We've got to win. We have to try. Damn it. But I'm okay.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Dagan from across the pond. Dagan, thank you for joining us this evening. How are you doing, my friend?
Fantastic, Tom. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, this is the dream. It's in our hands. It's in our hands. We need to win one of three. Would love for it to be tomorrow. Would so love for it to be tomorrow.
Very true. And you might hear some jingles in the background. I don't know if you can. That's the ice cream van.
Kind of Mr.
Down my street.
Oh.
So, yeah,
the ice cream man is coming.
Yeah, man. Anyone else get that parents think? Oh, they only play the tune when there's no ice cream left, actually. So, yeah. I completely lost my train of thought. As you can tell, viewers, we run a very professional ship here. Aaron, my friend, how are you doing? It's nice to have you back on the pod, albeit in voice form only.
Yes, good evening all. No, all good, thank you, mate. Yeah, all good. Looking forward to tomorrow. Just yeah, similar to you guys. Well, especially Tom, actually, the Newcastle game, I was pretty level-headed with it, believe it or not. I was the cool, calm and collected one out of the Obsessed chat, which is very unheard of. But no, all good. Yeah, all good. Looking forward to tomorrow.
No lies were detected in that statement. Indeed, viewers, Aaron was probably the coolest man on the chat. Maybe Aaron and Dagan probably sealing it there. And we also welcome back to the podcast Dan. Dan, mate, how are you keeping?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Yeah, obviously, with the Newcastle game, obviously seeing the result, I was a bit like, whoa, what happened there? Obviously, I didn't watch it. But yes, I don't think I missed it much, did I really? So, but it's fine. Yeah, other than that, all good. All good here.
What I will say about the Newcastle game, Dan, is that if you just saw the scoreline, you'd probably assume that we were absolutely battered for 90 minutes, and that's not necessarily the case. Hello, Kitnit. We're doing really good. Hey, oh, it's Sony. Hey, Sony, how's it going? How's it going, man? Great to have you on.
Hope you're keeping it real, Sony. Hope all is good.
Yeah, got to keep it real, man. Got to keep it real.
Gotta find those rivers.
Sweet
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah. So as you can see, again, professional content coming right at you here. Yeah, it was the scoreline was, I didn't think, reflected the game. We're not going to dive too much into it because it was depressing. First 45 minutes, we were dreadful, no arguments, and we deservedly went in at halftime 2-0 down. Second half was much better, generally better. And we'll talk briefly about a few points in regards to Newcastle, but no, the capitulation at the end was obviously very disappointing. Joe, one thing I do want to touch on about Newcastle is the fact that in the starting 11, once again, we saw sweeping changes, 4 changes that saw Jean-Paul Van Hecker come in, Undav, Welbeck, and Buonanotte. Colwell was not in the squad, which had a lot of fans panicking. But I think it's now come out that he was rested. So, but then I think it was a North Stand chat that pointed out here, Joe, that here is a list of some of the players that we don't have available. Veltman, Webster, Colwell, Lamptey, Sarmiento, Lallana, Moda, and March. I mean, you've almost got a pretty decent starting 11 there, Joe.
And Enoch and Wepu.
And obviously Enoch and Wepu, who sadly had to retire. So a lot of fans, Joe, were really angry about the starting 11 that De Zerbi had to put out. But he's got to get the squad through. Well, he had to get the squad through 4 games in 11 days. Do you see that those changes were justified, especially with how important tomorrow is?
I think, again, it was another big, bold call from Roberto to, Newcastle was a game in hand. It doesn't change anything in my opinion, but for Roberto, probably thinking, well, look, this is a free hit against a team that are, a game away from securing Champions League football. Do we, go all out against these guys, or do we go all out against Southampton? And it's just a choice that he had to make. And obviously the bold part comes from not knowing how the results were going to go today, because they could have easily gone against us. And then we're thinking, that was a crap decision. But now we're sitting here thinking, do you know what? We've got a really decent squad ready and waiting to go tomorrow, hopefully, to give us our best chances of beating already relegated Southampton, who, as Curtis has already alluded to, it's not going to be an easy task by any stretch. So anyone that thinks it's going to be unbelievably easy tomorrow, just to put their legs up and it'll be a guaranteed win, think again, because Southampton are down. There's no pressure on them. All the pressure's on us. And I hate to say it, when the pressure is on us, it tends not to go very well. So I hope our fortunes change tomorrow, and that we have a really good squad ready to go.
3 points needed, 3 games. Last game is at Villa. Remind anyone of anything?
Exactly what I was about to bring up.
Yeah,
Tom.
it's
Why?
You're the one that said that we tend to struggle under pressure. I was just reminding people. But no, Curtis, again, I don't want to dwell on Newcastle too much, but I would like to get your general sort of views on that game. Is it fitting in a way that if, Brighton could actually secure European football at home instead of would have been at St. James's Park? And also, can we just talk about Billy Gilmore's pass for that Undav goal? My God, if Kevin De Bruyne had made that pass, they'd be talking about it on Sky Sports for months. What a bloody pass that was, Curtis. Billy Gilmore, take a bow.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I think it would be a lot more poetic if we achieved this European thing at home. It would just be wonderful, period. I do want to mention Undav yesterday. At Newcastle as well. I mean, I thought he was kind of unfortunate with the own goal, but then I thought that goal that he scored was lovely. And I don't know if you saw the statement that was put out. He did an interview with someone and he was blaming himself for the game essentially. And I think he was really quite harsh on himself, because it was a team situation. It wasn't just one person. I thought, as a unit, we didn't play very well. But yeah, I don't want to dwell on it too much. It was poor all around, but like as you said, there's a few bright sparks there. I thought Billy Gilmore looked fantastic. I thought it was a shame that he had to come off when he did, but is what the decision was. But we've just got to go into this next game with a lot of fight, a lot of heart, and big balls.
Yeah, I love this quote from Stephen. Yeah, Caicedo must play in the midfield, and we will talk about our starting 11s for tomorrow a bit later. Dagan, another sort of I thought was a potentially bright spark was the inclusion of Adela Fire, who came on to play at right back, which then meant Caicedo could shift into the midfield. Now, there's a lot of questions about whether Joel Veltman will start tomorrow. If Joel Veltman is deemed not fit to start, Dagan, do you do you think we should go with a more inexperienced but natural right back over a more experienced but out of position central midfielder?
I feel strongly we should have Caicedo where he's meant to be in the midfield. If Veltman is fit, I think you give him a go for as long as he can go and hope that he can protect us from conceding early. I think the only way we lose this game is conceding early. So whoever our best fit guys are, and I think our most experienced, best and fit guys, makes sense to put out there with the absence of, maybe Ferguson and Ciso don't have quite as much experience, but those guys should be out there if they're fit. That's my that's my read. Ofaya he acquitted himself quite well, and if Veltman's growing weary and we're protecting a lead late, perhaps that's different. Especially if it's a multi-goal lead, I would feel a lot more comfortable. Let's just hope for that.
Yeah, definitely. So as that comment from Andrew there just said, let's forget about Newcastle then, unless anyone has only overwhelming desire to get back into it. No, fantastic. Let's get... Oh, go on, Dagan. Go.
All right, so I have to say, the positive takeaway, and I have to give the positive takeaway, we conceded, they battered us in the first half, but the goals we conceded were an own goal that was sort of fluky. And then we inexplicably lost Dan Burn on that, that set piece. Given how poorly we played, they could have scored far more. And then once we did go with our best group, we were in the game. And to your point, that you led with, the last two goals do not bother me at all. They are exactly what you see in any sport when you're pushing hard and putting it all into trying to even out the result. Sometimes you concede. And so that scoreline does not hurt me. It does not make me any more worried for the future games. It does not tell me anything about our fitness or our depth or anything else. I think it was simply the circumstance that we were in, trying to get something out of the game and away. So I thought it was heartening how good we looked in the second half. I think we had 76% of the ball or so in the second half. Not bad against a Newcastle team that was fighting for everything at home with an absolutely rabid crowd. Credit to them. They're inches away from the Champions League. And I want to give a quick shout to their fans and our fans and how they responded to each other at the conclusion of that game. It was sort of the best online reaction I've seen all year between opponents was our fans to Newcastle fans. So tip of the cap to them. Good luck in Champions League, because it looks like that's really headed.
It's kind of crazy though, isn't it? Because we came up with them from the Prem, right? And look at that now. It's mad. I'm quite. You've got to feel like what a season this has been for both of us. And regardless of where their money's coming from, it's still amazing where they are and what they've achieved and who they've beat and all that. You've got to give them a pat on the back.
It does help when you spend over £200 million, though. I mean, that's what I think. I don't want to talk about Newcastle, but everyone talks about Eddie Howe as this miracle worker. They've spent over £200 million. They've got a £40 million player sat on their bench. It's not a blooming miracle. It does my head in.
The thing is, one thing I'm going to point out is I actually think that's probably our worst performance of the season by far. I think going forward we were awful. We may have had all the ball, but we done nothing in that game. Even when we went to 2-1, we did not look like scoring until we actually scored. Until we played that one pass and Newcastle switched off defensively, we did not look like scoring. And you can have all the ball you want, but if you don't make any chances, then you're not going to get goals, and by then you're not going to win games. And we got probably exactly what we deserved, and that's absolutely nothing.
No arguments there at all. We didn't deserve anything. But yeah, as Les said, let's put a pin in it and let's move on, because I'm far more interested in talking about today and tomorrow. So Aaron, I'm going to come to you on this one because we knew that today, if results went our way, it puts us in a fantastic position tomorrow. So the results that we needed today was we needed Spurs and Villa to drop points. And it happened, Aaron. And it wasn't a particularly pleasant experience waiting for another team to do something for you. Both Spurs and Villa scored first in their respective games, and then thankfully, Brentford came back to win it, and Liverpool eventually got the draw. What were your general thoughts on those games today, and how did you feel when those goals went in that will eventually it does make our life a lot easier?
I mean, it doesn't really mean that much, really, at the precise moment in time, because we need to do our job. It's as really simple as that. We just got to keep doing what we do to get into Europe now. Yes, the results have helped us, but even if they didn't, I would still expect us to go out there with the same intensity, same, style of play, and just see where it goes. Because you can't rely on other people's results. Yes, it's been helpful today, but it may not have been, and then we may be in a whole different conversation. I'm trying not to get too far ahead of myself, because last time, we've already mentioned it already. Last time we had to, 3 games to get the title, and we blew it away at Villa, and it does have that sort of feel to it already. And I feel like people may have built it up a bit too much. Yes, I'm not trying to cast a negative doubt or anything over it, but you just got to remember this is Brighton. We don't do things a simple way. We never have done, we never will do. This is why I wasn't really that fussed that we got battered on Thursday, because I've seen a lot worse in a lot of different contexts than what we are now. We're 6th in the Premier League, and we were frustrated and pissed off that we got battered 4-1 by a team who's third in the Premier League. Christ, just being in the Premier League, let alone, is mad enough. But to potentially get Europe tomorrow afternoon is a thought that has never really crossed my mind, really. If I'm honest, I thought we blew it against Everton myself. I have to admit, that's why I wasn't really too fussed with the games coming up. But everything seems to have gone our way, so we will find out tomorrow. Really, that's my spin on it. The games today, obviously the results helped, but I don't think I haven't really looked too much into that personally. I know others may have done, but obviously I'm glad that Spurs lost, because to be fair, I don't really like Tottenham, and I'm glad that Villa conceded, because I don't particularly like Villa. So it's other than that, Palace drew, but that's only a downside today.
Very true, but you make a really good point in regards to context, Aaron. And I don't mean to sort of like be what I'd like to call a mood hoover or whatever, because people, I think, had every right to feel very disappointed after our game against Newcastle. Very disappointed, but it is a world away from losing to 9-man Warsaw in League Two. And it is very different from waiting on results that could keep you in a league, which we saw, in our last season under Chrissy Houghton. So, the context is everything. Fans have every right to feel how they feel. But no, I think perspective and context are still very important. And I mean, similar to Aaron, I never thought I'd see the day when we were fighting for Europe, ever. Never. But here we are, because Dan, a win tomorrow will all but ensure that we not only qualify for Europa League due to our vastly superior goal difference, but would also see us finish in the top 6 of the Premier League. And again, this is unless there's a huge swing in goal differential, which is highly unlikely. Dan, did you ever thought you'd see the day that Brighton and Hove Albion were a win away from top 6 in the Premier League?
If I was told that when I first started supporting Brighton, I probably would be like, but this team is in League One. How the hell are they going to get to the Premier League, let alone finish 6th? Like, it's a crazy thing to think about. And like, when I first supported Brighton, obviously started off in League One. Obviously, they got to the Championship. Obviously, moved into the Amex, because obviously I missed all the other stuff. And to be in the Premier League, I got emotional when we got into the Premier League, because obviously, I've supported this club for however long, and to see them be in with the big boys, it was an incredible day. And now it feels that we're just getting bigger and bigger every year. And now to be potentially be sitting in sixth until the end of the season is mind blowing, completely mind blowing. I can't imagine how people were thinking about when they were sitting at the Goldstone worrying about what's happening to the club in '97 to now sitting sixth in the Premier League. For me, it's mind blowing. They're probably literally beside themselves about tomorrow. That's why it's so big. And I said in the chat we said about tomorrow, I just went, all we need is big balls.
It's true. Very true. Joe, how do you feel about tomorrow? How do you feel? I mean, a bit of context here. Obviously, we've rested players, so we should have a squad that is perhaps a bit fresher than, due to the quick turnaround of games. It's never going to be truly fresh. I mean, poor Estupiñán, Matoma, they've been run ragged. But generally speaking, Alexis McAllister, Billy Gilmore have had minutes like subbed out and stuff. So they should, in theory, have fresher legs. We could see the return of Joel Veltman, and the Southampton manager has put out that he will probably play some of their youngsters tomorrow. Bearing in mind, of course, these youngsters could be playing for not only to show off to Southampton and say, yeah, you need to use me in the Championship, but they also could be saying, please, Premier League clubs, look at me, sign me up. So they're going to, as I think it was Curtis, they're going to have a point to prove. They aren't going to be pushovers, as Aaron has said. But are you feeling optimistic? Are you feeling positive? Have you got the standoff-full vibes?
I always have the standoff all vibes. I will die with this club, and I will go on the most beautiful journeys with this club. Anything this club do, I will be there. I don't care if we're National League. I don't care where we are. I will be there. So, yeah, to talk about the context of going into tomorrow, one win away from Europe is unbelievably nerve-wracking. And there's going to be so many different emotions flying about the Amex tomorrow. There's going to be so many different emotions flying about. I was going to say Sussex, but the whole world, because Brighton and Hove Albion, we're not just Sussex anymore. We are global. Dagan is however many thousand miles across the pond, and still going to have that same emotion as us. That what an unbelievable achievement this is going to be. I guarantee you, Dagan, that you didn't think that this would be what you would be watching Brighton do at the end of the season when you jumped aboard with us. And yeah, I'm incredibly nervous. The most nervous game for me this season was actually the Grimsby game, crazily enough, because it was Brighton in a quarterfinal, chance to get to Wembley. You're playing against Grimsby, who are League Two, but there's every chance, obviously, that there's a massive cup upset. Now it's slightly similar. Obviously, I know Southampton lost to Grimsby, to be fair. So maybe I should be more confident if we can beat Grimsby. But I'm just really, really nervous that people are gonna feel too comfortable, and our players will feel that as well. We need every single one of those players to do their job perfectly. I don't care that it's Southampton. They need to have a 10 out of 10 game. We need to give everything from the first minute, get an early goal, and it will be similar. And again, I can't believe I'm comparing it to this. Get an early goal, and it will be similar to Grimsby, I believe. Get that pressure off of us, and then take them to the sword.
I love it. I love it. Now, Curtis, you are going to the game tomorrow. And Mark says here that, we need to get the ground rocking from start to finish. How important is it tomorrow that the crowd get behind the team from the off?
Oh, we can be that extra man out there, that extra bit of support. I mean, it's going to do so much for them knowing that we're like completely 100% behind them. Oh God, I'm so nervous though. I'm so nervous, just because I'd argue that this is probably one of the most important games I've ever seen, like Brighton games. I mean, it's really, really stressful, but like I agree, we all have to show that we care, and we've got to be loud and boisterous, and we've got to got to help them out essentially. But I agree with everything that Joe said. Like, they've just got to give 100%, and I'm sure that we as the fan base will do the same. We'll do the same.
Yes, Mark. Yes, it really is. We all feel it. Dagan, you're supporting from across the pond tomorrow. What is your plan for tomorrow? And now, I'm not a superstitious guy. I'm genuinely not. I don't believe in lucky socks or anything like that. But please, for the love of God, whatever you do, take your cup with you, take your mug with you, and drink from it, please. And this goes to viewers and listeners as well, and to every single one of you. I'm not a superstitious guy, but please, for the love of God,
damn your lucky shirt, mate.
You wear your lucky shirt, you wear your lucky pants, you wear your lucky socks. You keep whatever pre-match ritual that you have that brings us luck. But Dagan, what are your plans tomorrow to watch the game? Are you going to be meeting up with people, or are you going to go solo? How's it going to go for you across the pond?
I'm going to get in front of my television, get my 10-year-old soccer player in all of her good Brighton gear that she's proud of right now. And while she fiddles around on her iPad, poke her occasionally, be like, watch, and point out and tell her how historic this moment is. I have to say to you guys, Joe, I absolutely expected this. I entered this thinking we finished 9th last year. This is a better team. We're going to do better than 9th. This was what I thought was going to happen. And I listened to you guys today, and I love you guys. But you sound a bit sad sack. All the pessimism, all the both. Brighton, whatever happens, if we just lose out and finish 8th or 9th, we are one of the best 20 football clubs in the world. Right now, today, I wasn't at the Goldston. I wasn't at Withdean. I haven't had, the scars that you guys have. But in 2022, 2023, and in looking forward, this club is a force to be reckoned with. And I believe wholeheartedly that we're going to get the job done. If not tomorrow, in one of the games that follows it. We need 3 points. I feel like there's a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, I don't know if are we really this? Do we really belong? But we absolutely belong. Like, there is no doubt about it. Our players are class. Our manager is class. We deserve it. We will have it. We're going to Europe. Brighton and Hove Albion is going to Europe.
A sentence I never thought I would ever hear. You'll have to forgive us, Dagan, because as Brits, we are very deprecating. It's all we don't really belong. I think,
Dagan, it's nice of you to talk to a sad sack. So it's really nice of you.
Just like, well, I'm not sure. Brighton always. I don't know. Maybe
I
I'm
think
just
that's Brighton in a
dumb,
nutshell.
arrogant American, but I'm like, no, we're here.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go. I do think there is a certain level of humility around Brighton in general, because as Aaron has already alluded to, we've been through the ringer, we've been through the mire, and there probably is, you're right, Dagan, probably a little bit of imposter syndrome, because as I've said many, many times, I never thought I'd see the day. And I think it's really important, Aaron, tomorrow that we leave absolutely nothing on that pitch. Because let's be honest, as we see here, it's potential that we're going to see Southampton sit back. They're going to come to the Amex. They're going to probably try and make it tough for us. We've already said that some of their players might be looking to impress in order to get moves away from the club. How do you see the game working out? Do we just play our game and worry about what we can control, or do we need to be wary of Southampton's potential tactical game of sitting back and playing terrorism ball, as many like to call it?
I think if you worry about what the opposition is going to do, I think that's where you'll lose the game. You got to focus on what we got to do. Just focus on how we play. Southampton, it's either going to be one or two things: is where they're going to sit back and try not to be humiliated, or they're just going to go, do you know what? Fuck it, we're already down. Let's play with some fun, have some freedom. It could go one or two ways. And I say this every single time. Ask me at 1 o'clock when the teams come out. Then we'll see what they're going to do, and we'll see what we're going to do. You know.
Yeah, definitely. We can't worry about Southampton. We can't. You're right. We can't be complacent, but we also can't worry about what they may or may not do. So one of the things that we've just posted down below is getting people's ideal starting 11s. We've seen a lot of tired legs, a lot of fatigue in the squad, and it's no secret that we are down to, I suppose, what Roberto De Zerbi would call the bare bones. So let's talk about who starts tomorrow then. For me, I put out a tweet this morning saying that I would start Adela Fire at right back. We know Steele's going to start in goal, barring an injury. Adela Fire at right back, and then a back four, of course, of Lewis Dunk, Levi Colwill coming back after being rested, and Purvis Estupiñán. And in the middle, I've gone with Caicedo and Gilmore. And then Alexis McAllister just in front of them, with then Ciso and Matoma out wide and Evan Ferguson up top. The reason I've done that is because I think Billy Gilmore just gives us a bit more agility in the middle. Maybe that's the wrong word, but he gives us a bit more movement in the middle than Pascal Gross does. And it also means that Pascal Gross can come off the bench and, do what he does. So I've been a bit ambitious there. And of course, I love Pascal Gross. I think he's a phenomenal player, and it's more than likely going to be that he does start. But for me, I think Billy Gilmore's done enough to be in the starting 11. And as I say, Evan Ferguson up top, giving us that sort of that threat that he often gives us. So that's my starting 11. Joe, who makes the team for you? Where do Brighton and Hove Albion need to change? Where do they need to freshen up?
I think it's a game that Pascal can start right back. I think we'll be dominant. I think that will allow Pascal to do his usual popping up anywhere he likes role, and then slot in at right back when needed. And I feel like he will give whoever's on the right hand side with him that extra support in terms of creativity as well going forward. So I would not be against seeing Pascal Gross there. And then that obviously leaves Caicedo, Gilmore and McAllister in the middle. I think that at the moment it is easily our best midfield, Caicedo, Gilmore and McAllister. As much as I love Pascal, I love him in the number 10 role, but I think you have to start Alexis there. You can't drop Alexis deep. But as much as I've said, I prefer Alexis deeper, but he's never going to play that role at the moment. And then it would be Enciso, Matoma on the wings with Ferguson up front, Dunk, Colwill, Estupiñán, and Jason Steele to complete the back line.
Very nice indeed. Don't forget to let us know yours in the comment section down below. Curtis, same question, my friend. I'm going to get everyone starting 11s tomorrow, for tomorrow, I should say. So who makes your starting 11? And also tell us any subs that you think will be worthy to look at, because Dagan has made some really good points in the past about how good Undav is coming off the bench. And I think Undav is actually our best goals per minute player. It was Evan Ferguson, but Undav's been on fire recently in front of goal. So do you think that he will come on in the second half to keep that good form going?
I mean, he scored 4 in his last 5, which I think is impressive. But I think I agree with pretty much what Joe said squad-wise, but it depends how fit Veltman is, and if these rumours are true, that he could potentially be fit for tomorrow. But he might be someone that maybe comes on in beginning of the second half or something. Depends how the game goes, obviously, how the flow of the game is. But yeah, I'd like to see Undav come on, because he definitely has an effect off the bench. That's noticeable, I think. Even though I thought he looked okay-ish in the Newcastle game. It was a nice goal and everything. But yeah, I think I agree pretty much with the squad that Joe said, bar maybe Veltman where Gross is, but we'll just see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it is dependent on Joel Veltman. And the only reason I shied away from putting Gross at right back is because of the threat that they carry down the flanks. Now, Kyle Walker-Peters, I know he can play either side. And my thoughts were that if he played at left back, which means he'd be coming down our right-hand side, Adela Fire with his pace and his strength could perhaps be a better option there against Pascal Gross. But then again, we've seen Pascal Gross play against pacey wingers before. So my same question to you, Dagan, where do you sit in terms of squad? Who makes your starting 11?
Colwell and Dunk, center back, Estupiñán, and Veltman if he's ready to go. With the player coming off an injury, it does seem in the sport that there's often the sort of 30-minute cameo. But if he's got any kind of tightness, he's a little bit more of a veteran. I'd rather him be out there to start and see what he's got. And if we need to make a change, we make a change. If Gross is in the 11, I'd like him to be at the 10 rather than deeper. So my ideal would be Caicedo and McAllister in the middle with Gross in that creation role where he doesn't have to run quite as much because I think he's gassed. I think Gross is gassed. And so I worry about him, but I also want him out there for his leadership because I feel like he is, the leader on the sort of top half of the pitch. Ferguson, Matoma, and Ciso, as you guys have indicated, as well up top. Absent Gross starting, I would slot McAllister forward and play Gilmore. He's earned it. I would not be disappointed with that at all. So that was maybe a not a firm answer, but something in those combinations is what I would want. I would not want Gross at right back for this game. I'm worried about his hamstrings, candidly. He's had a lot of miles.
Yeah, I think he looked really tired against Newcastle as well. I think we're reaching the end of the season anyway, so there are going to be a lot of tired legs. And then when you factor in the congestion of our recent fixture list, you can just see the fatigue creeping into people's games. And Estupiñán, he looked absolutely exhausted after the Newcastle game. And it's like this comment here, Southampton, they don't want us to see it get Europe. I mean, the League One days, if you remember Nigel Atkins, oh yes, if they can keep up with us, obviously very funny, but they're going to want to see us frustrated. They're gonna probably not want us to achieve Europe. I know that it's not really a rivalry of such, but I can see them coming to frustrate as well. Stephen here says, and Ciso on the bench, fair call. I wonder, Stephen, who you would start on the flank instead. Perhaps Pascal Gross playing further forward on the right. That could be an option, definitely. And then Ciso to come off the bench, or maybe even Danny Welbeck playing on the left-hand side and Matoma on the right. It's going to be really interesting. Aaron, you're always very famous for saying, ask me again at 2:00 on a Saturday afternoon. But this time I'm going to be getting your opinions on a 1:00 on a Sunday. Aaron, are there any players that for you are a definite do start and a definite don't start?
Definite don't start is Undav and Argentinian Dave. Gilmore has to start. And then Ferguson obviously has to start, and then it's pretty much the same as the others have said, really. I personally would rather see Veltman or a Fire at right back than Gross, personally. And then Gross would be the one I'd actually probably leave out of the three. I'd move Caicedo into midfield with McAllister and Gilmore. I wouldn't have him out wide, purely because I think Ciso and Matoma are just so much better running at players. Yeah, that's how I go. Pretty much the same as everybody else, apart from get Undav away and get Argentinian Dave away. Just for the game, not okay. Away is probably the wrong word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I think Buonanotte, a lot was made about his performance against Newcastle, Dan. But we have to be realistic here. Buonanotte has literally been thrown at the deep end because of our squad depth. Let's be candid here. If Jeremy Sarmiento was fit, he'd be playing. If Solly March was fit, he'd be playing. Or Jeremy Sarmiento, if both were fit, Jeremy Sarmiento would be the player to come on. But because Buonanotte is pretty much all we've got, it's not been surprising to see him start, 3 of the last 5 games, I believe. So my same question to you then, Dan. Who's in your starting 11 and who would you definitely play or not play as well?
So my starting 11, I put obviously still in goal. I've actually got with Caicedo at right back because I feel like he's been doing quite well there, and just I'm not sure. Obviously, with Veltman, obviously being that late, just to decide on what his fitness is like is going to be quite tricky. I thought maybe Caicedo would just be there as a definite. Obviously, Duncan, Colwell, Estepinian, McAllister, Gilmore, and Ciso. I put Gross in at 10 in a 10 role because I felt like it's a sort of game that he can sort of play good in. So obviously, he knows how to read the game, and obviously Southampton maybe we don't know how they're going to turn up. So it's probably one of those things where he'll do good. So obviously, Matoma and Ferguson up front. It's sort of one of those games where you just sort of try and play your best players, whoever's fit, and just hope and pray it all works out. And obviously, then if not, you've got decent replacements on the bench that can come in and make a difference if needed. So yeah, that's my starting 11.
Yeah, it's all about having those starters and those finishers, as the phrases they use in rugby, and I'm sure many other sports as well. I don't know if anyone knows the score, but this is a good point. Wednesday's game will be good if Forest win tonight. Has that game started yet? Again, not in the loop in regards to football outside of Brighton and Hove Albion. I'm such a bad football fan. But no, this is what why it could be quite key to win tomorrow, because Man City, if they're not doing well today, are yes. So anyone got a score on the Man City? What's that looking like?
It's
It's
1-0, 1-0 Forest at the moment
Yeah.
in the Arsenal game. So Forest win this, and City win the league pretty much.
Okay, fantastic. So Roberto De Zerbi said today regarding lineup, he will ask certain players how they are feeling. Yeah, I think that goes to show just the fatigue that's in the squad. I imagine players like Veltman will be asked, Gross perhaps, Caicedo even. It's a minefield, isn't it? And it's all well and good us sitting here saying who we think is going to start, but the reality is that we've got a lot of players that are just exhausted. So that's again why it's really important that we can somehow get a result tomorrow, no matter what Southampton throw at us. Here's our chance to put it to bed, because obviously we don't want to get destroyed by Man City, and we don't want to turn up to Villa, who will be fighting for a European spot, and get destroyed there either. We want to end the season on as high as possible note as we can. But the fatigue worries me, Joe. It is a concern that in the event that we did miss out on Europe, it wouldn't necessarily be down to the club playing badly or anything like that. It could just simply be down to not having the legs to get across the line.
I mean, I know we're a few games further on into the season, and the fatigue could be worse than what it was a few weeks ago. But we played 120 minutes against Man United, 100 minutes then against Forest, and we were saying the squad's fucked. We're done. And then we go and beat Wolves 6-0. And then we lose to Everton 5-1. Again, people are saying the squad's fucked. And then we go and beat Man United 1-0. And then we beat Arsenal. Sorry, I think I've got that round the wrong way. But we lost to Everton, and then we go and beat Arsenal 3-0. So
if the pattern continues,
for me, that the fatigue is a worry, but there's been enough evidence that if we get a disappointing result, we'll come out absolutely flying in the next game. And if you're a guy that goes on patterns, then follow that pattern, and hopefully the squad know what they need to do tomorrow. There's no ifs, there's no buts, there's no maybes. They know that they go out there and they win the game. They've got European football. That is enough motivation for me. Obviously, I'm not a professional footballer, far from it. But I know that if I've got a little bit of pain in my leg, that extra motivation surely makes you forget about that little pain. That's not going to make you run as fast. That's not going to make you tackle as hard. Because we are 90 minutes away from achieving our goal. We're 90 minutes away from saying Brighton and Hove Albion are going to play in the Europa League. It's massive. And I hope the fans give enough energy to the players to get them over the line.
Yeah, definitely. That adrenaline can work very positively, as you said, Joe, but it can also have a negative effect. I mean, I'm hoping that tomorrow's Amex atmosphere rivals or even exceeds that against Sheffield Wednesday, that infamous game where the Amex was absolutely bouncing. We need it to be that and above to push the boys across the line. And I mean, one thing, Curtis, that we might find that if we do win tomorrow, a lot gets said about the likes of Caicedo, McAllister, Matoma, all these players potentially wanting to move on. Now, I think we have to be realistic that we are going to lose some of these players in the summer. And it seems that Alexis McAllister is probably the most likely to depart. But how important will be securing European football to not only keeping certain players, but also recruiting other players as well?
It'll be massive. It'll be massive. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of great players out there with big ambitions, and they'll see a really forward-thinking team with a great manager, a really good squad around them who have just broken to Europe. That, I mean, I'd want to play for that club. So I know that much. So yeah, it would just be it would be really, really good for a plethora of different facets. So yeah, we've just got to be on form and do what we do best, and the rest is down to fate, I guess.
Let's hope so. This has been a question that we've had a couple of throughout the show, Dagan, that Saints could just sit back, and we've seen against Everton, against Forest at times that Brighton sometimes struggle to pick off those teams that sit back, want to hit us on the counter. How would you sort of counteract that? Because you seem to know a lot about Brighton's passing lanes and stuff. So, what do you think Brighton's best tactic would be if that was the case, that Southampton would just come to sit back? But as I like this, Stephen said, Saints aren't capable of sitting back.
I saw that pop in right before you asked that question. I thought that's a fair point. And I just don't know that they'll be inclined to. I mean, I guess maybe weathering out a draw, but for their players who are trying to audition, I don't know that that's the best plan for auditioning, is just packing it in and, putting 11 guys behind the ball. That doesn't seem like it. Again, they fair well might. I think for us, it's getting the best players on the pitch. That has been the issue. When packing it in has worked the best, it's been when we've not had our best lineup out there. So, when it is Welbeck and Undav instead of Ferguson, we've struggled, right? I mean, we talked about, we need the guys. We don't have a lot of them who can create that vertical space in traffic when teams pack it in against us, because that's really the only opening that's there. The one team that we faced that was really an exception there is Everton, with sort of their huge center backs. And that made it really tough. But I think otherwise we've had some success. Not that we're great at set pieces, but Ferguson does a nice job of carving out space. So that would be my initial thought, is let's make sure we have Ferguson on the pitch. Yeah,
I think Ferguson, he's such a talented individual. We've said that throughout the season, Dan, what he has brought to the team. So in regards to that, Dan, let's talk about score lines tomorrow then. Let's talk about the scores on the doors. I know. I'm getting you guys to try and be optimistic. What do you think is going to be the score line tomorrow?
It's quite hard because obviously, we don't know how we're going to play after what happened Thursday, and obviously with Wednesday in mind as well. Obviously, even though it's going to be a free hit game, I think probably like a 2-1 would do, maybe, just as it probably would be anyway. We don't do things easy. If we're going to win hard. So, might as well have it always that way.
That's very true. Joe, scores, please.
Oh, I don't know. It's so hard to call, because if this game isn't of such massive magnitude, I say 3-0 Brighton. I'm not as anxious, I'm not as worried as I am right now. If this is in a completely different situation, if this was Boxing Day, before Boxing Day, I would have predicted the 3-1 win that we got. You just feel James Ward-Prowse 90th minute free kick, don't you? You just do. But right, let's try and focus and be positive, because Brighton are 1 win away from Europe, and the track record, as I mentioned previously, I'm so flip-floppy. I'm so sorry to the people that have listened to me today, because I am so unbelievably flip-floppy. Anyone that's interacted with me over the last week or 2 weeks, it's not been fun, and I apologize. 3-0 Brighton. Go on, take it.
I think I'll have what Mark's having, 7-0 win. Woo, I'll have that, please. Or a 1-0 defeat. I like this one as well. From Phil, 3-1 to the Albion. Curtis.
Listen, I don't care if it's a 1-0, the scrappiest off of someone's crotch into the goal.
Glenn Murray, get your boots on.
You know what? Literally, I want to win, obviously, tomorrow, duh. But I really don't care how it happens. I'm the resident confident one, and I am confident because I have to be, because it's what I've told myself I should be now. But tomorrow is a huge game, and De Zerbi comes on and scores as well. Yeah, but a huge game, and we cannot take this lightly. That they will come out fighting, but even still, I think it will be 3-1. 3-1 to the Albion. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the fans, a lot of people in the comment section it's been one or the other, hasn't it? It's been very much a case of we'll either dominate and we'll rip them to shreds, or it'll be really tight. Dagan, you've been very optimistic on this podcast. What do you feel like the score is going to be tomorrow? What is your score predictions?
So, as I've said before, my worry is always if we, concede quickly, right? And that changes everything. It changes the way we play. I am inclined, as Adam just posted, something similar to that, but I'm going to say 4-0. That is, I think if we score in the first half, 4-0 will be how it finishes.
I think you're right. I think if we can get a goal relatively early, not too early, because we don't want a repeat of the Villa game earlier in the season. Evan 3-0 hat-trick, seriously. Yeah, man, I'll take that. We get bashed, we bash back. Yeah, that's very true. As we said about the pattern repeating, I think if we can get an early goal, get 2 in the first half, I fancy us to run out as we did against Wolves. Let's hope that is the case. Football is a very emotional game. We are all emotionally invested in this football club that is absolutely wonderful, beautiful, terrifying, anger-inspiring at times. Joe, I know it's difficult to look ahead. How will you feel tomorrow when that final whistle blows if Albion get a victory?
Emotional. Extremely emotional. I'll be there with my mum, who's been through insane amounts with this football club. I'll be there with my dad, who's also been through incredible amounts of emotions with this football club, and to be sharing the pinnacle. Hopefully we get better, but the pinnacle at this time with them is going to be something to remember forever. And there's going to be hopefully so many memories made tomorrow. I feel, again, I'm flip-flopping again, but I feel somewhat that maybe the stars are aligning, that we're not doing the lap of honor after the City game. We're doing it after Southampton, because is that the game that we secure Europe, and they're going to be walking around that pitch celebrating with the fans, finally getting to that goal that Roberto De Zerbi has been talking about for months, hugging each other, crying, just thinking about European nights at the Amex, thinking about European nights wherever we get drawn against. And those are the heavy heights that Brighton and Hove Albion are hitting. And it blows my mind. It genuinely does. People probably bored of us saying, "Oh, look how far we've come." But really, really look because this is a story that Hollywood couldn't write. Not one film writer could expect that it goes this way for Brighton and Hove Albion, that on that day that our ground got sold, our club was getting sold into the ground, that we would be here 26 years later. Just really, that's, yeah. This is what it means. This comment, hopefully I won't get too emotional if we win. I lost my dad last year and he was a massive Albion fan. We do it for them as well. You know, they're not, it's not lost on us. They're still with us on this journey. They're changing things up there that are allowing these incredible things to happen, and for this joy to filter through everyone. And let's hope for that incredible, joyous moment tomorrow, because he'll be there with you, with his arm around you, and yeah, it'll be a great moment.
Yeah, and if it makes you feel any better, I will cry tomorrow if we win. I will cry, and I hold no back. I'm not ashamed to say that at all. Curtis, this is very interesting from Adam. We need a Rise or Fall Netflix documentary now. It's no secret that the club have been sitting on a particular documentary, as it were, for some months, and they've been holding off and holding off and holding off. Is tomorrow time to finish writing that story? And if that story is written, that Brighton and Hove Albion achieve their European aspirations at home, how will that make you, as an Albion fan, feel?
I mean, my journey is a lot different to a lot of the fan base. I mean, I've not been brought up with football. My family hate the game. So I've just found this beautiful thing just completely organically, and it's been one of the best journeys I've ever had in my entire life. I've met some of the most amazing people through this, and I've experienced the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows sometimes. And we're sat here and we're talking about European football. It's still not quite ticking over, you know. It's this very, 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 very big thing, and I've been quite emotional about it all day, to be brutally honest. You know, like that we're on the precipice of greatness for us. You know, this is going to be this will be in the history books. You know, if we can do this, you know, this will be in the history books, and we can tell our children and our grandchildren and all that soppy stuff. But ultimately, I'm just so incredibly proud of what we've achieved and how far we've come, and yeah, it's just in our hands ultimately. And whatever we do, we've just got to be loud and proud tomorrow and cheer them over the line. So
I'm here for all the soppy stuff. That's why I'm asking you guys how you feel, because as I say, football is an emotive game, and there's no point pretending it's not. Dagan, you've joined us on this journey. You chose our club, and that for me makes me feel very proud. To see the club that you now support, that you now love, achieve something that we have told you on many occasions that we never thought possible. How does that make you feel? Like, how proud are you that you chose this club over all those other bastards?
Well, I thought I was choosing wisely. I thought I was being smart when I picked this club, because I was picking the smart, brilliant owner. What I've fallen in love with, in addition to that, is the heart of the club, and you guys and all of the supporters, and, you know, reading the words and hearing the stories, knowing of Dick Knight and Attila and Paul and those people who saved the club, right? They were there, and now we are here. And, you know, a favored son taking ownership of the club, right? And turning it into this. It has to seem unimaginable. It has to seem fairy tale, but here we are. And, you know, I was hearing the comments, right, and thinking to myself, like, these results today could have gone against us. Both of them could have easily gone against us. At halftime of both games, it looked like they were going against us. And I thought, man, this could all unravel very, very quickly, even if we did get the result against Saints. And now here we are. We're one win away. It really is in our hands. And it feels like, you know, we are writing the end of a fairy tale. And who knows what we'll see at the end of a game tomorrow. And after that, we're playing for fun, and maybe we beat the league champions on our field, and really put an exclamation point on it. That's the storybook ending I'm writing. And then, you know, who knows? We let Villa in that last game, and they knock off Spurs, and we can be happy to not have to worry about them either. But I just couldn't be more excited. I couldn't be more honored to be a part of it. Right there's just a heartbeat, and there's a community here that I feel like deserves it. We've paid our dues, man. This club has paid our dues. I haven't. I'm here along for the ride, but I'm humbled to be here. I'm honored to be here, and this is our time.
Yeah, and you mentioned the one man who possibly deserves it more than any of us, Tony Bloom. What a man! The man who, many people deserve it. Of course, you mentioned many that have fought for our club, but Tony Bloom deserves this, doesn't he? Tony Bloom has helped this club survive. He's pushed this club onto heights that we thought were unimaginable. So that in itself needs to be mentioned. But Dan, I'm interested in your feelings as well. Brighton on the cusp of something truly, truly incredible. How does that make you feel?
I probably have some same sort of feeling when I went into that promotion day. You knew something special was going to happen, and it was all in our hands, and for it to happen, it was just amazing. And obviously, see everybody just so elated and everything that comment said. This is for people that helped the club. This is for our families. This is for everything. Anybody who through 97 to get to Falmer, to get a with Dean, to try and get us out of Gillingham, to bring us back home. This is basically for everybody that we've lost along the way. This is what it means for all of us to sort of, as I say, the community together. That this one result is going to bring this whole fan base together again, and we're going to celebrate as one. And I as well want to say as well, because obviously as we're playing Southampton, they keep referring to us regarding our success with Southampton. That was the same thing that happened to Southampton is going to happen to us. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think we are way smarter than they were, because they were just any sort of bid that come in for them. I know I'm going on a tangent now, I'm sorry. But it's one of those things where they compare you, and it's like, I think Tony Bloom, Paul Barber, anybody else who have control are way smarter than they were, because we ain't going to sell players if we can't replace them. If we're not going to replace them or can't replace them, we're not selling them to you unless our value is either met or exceeded. That's the way it's going to go. But go back to my feelings about the game. I'm going to be there. I'm going to watch. Obviously, not going to be there. I'm going to have to be watching it at home with my son. So that would be great. I'll be sharing my little moment with him. And obviously, if the result goes well, I know that I've enjoyed it with my boy. So, and hopefully, if he does, I won't say he will support Brighton. I want to support Brighton, but I hope he will. But he knows that we have this club together, and we can enjoy everything that comes after that as well. And hopefully, this as I say, I really don't think that it'll happen with us. Will happen with Southampton. I really hope it doesn't. So we can have more days like this and have a lot more good memories to go along with it. So yeah, I can't wait for it all to come happen.
Tom, what about your feelings though? You've asked us. I want to know how you are feeling about it.
Well, it's no secret that I wear my heart on my sleeve. I will break down in tears of joy. Even now, just like hearing you guys talk about it, it makes me feel emotional. And apologies if that makes anyone feel uncomfortable. But no, it will mean something to me that I can't quite put into words. Going to Wembley with my dad was really special. But securing something that in 97, as Dan said, we would never have thought that. Tomorrow is perhaps the single most important game since the Hereford game. And I'm just going to be totally overwhelmed if we do achieve our dream of getting into Europe. And as I say, I make no bones about it. I will cry, and I will not be ashamed of that fact. I will let myself feel those feelings and rejoice that my football club that I've supported since I were a wee lad have achieved something remarkable. And my one dream, my one hope is that I hope Lewis Dunk scores tomorrow. If Lewis Dunk scored the goal that sends us to Europe, it's written in the stars. Solly March scored the goal that sent us to the Premier League. If Dunkey could score the goal that sends us into Europe, I would. Oh, God, if I was going to be upset for just winning, if Dunkey was the one that scores that goal, God help me. I'm going to need some tissues because, I'm going to be crying.
I tell you, I'd be in a mess. I'd be in a mess eating my hot dog at the ground tomorrow, just crying. It'd be horrible. Horrible look, but yeah, amazing.
I'll take it. I'll take it. And to be fair, I don't care who scores. I don't care if it's an own goal. But as I say, Dunk getting the win would be something quite truly special. But there you have it, Brighton and Hove Albion fans. Thank you for joining us on this wild ride. Thank you to Joe, Curtis, and Dagan, who's got his finger up like he's in class. Dagan, did you want to say something?
I was saying one more. Just one more. We are this close.
Yeah. Once more into the breach, dear friends. Once more. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Thank you to Joe, Curtis, Dagan, and Dan, and of course Aaron, who had to duck out for work. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Sleep well. Try to sleep well. And wherever you may be, whenever you may be, we will see you on the other side. Up the Albion.